Plymouth has seen famous ships sail from our harbour on quests of every kind. Our yawl, the Petula, is no Mayflower or Golden Hind, although the three of us, our crew, are feeling right now like a cross between Elizabethan buccaneers and Pilgrim Fathers. Roland Sharma, fisherman and marine biologist, comes from Malaya. Our skipper and navigator, ex-merchant seaman Frank Evans, is from England. My name's Dick Dixon, meteorologist from New Zealand. And so we sail on our own quest in the little Petula. The course is south-southwest, along Europe's coast to Africa. Dakar is the last port of call, our last chance to prepare for our real purpose. We're planning to drift, yes, drift, 3,000 miles across the Atlantic with the North Equatorial Current, a westerly current which links up with the warm Gulf Stream. Putting aside last-minute doubts about our sanity, we set out in the 50-year-old Petula. Not far from Dakar, Frank calls all hands on deck. I'm the last as usual. It's quite an occasion. Portuguese Santa Maria, our last contact with the outside world before we drift away from the shipping lanes. Now Petula is alone. Alone except for a raft we tow astern, the sea, and what's in the sea. For a while there's my radio, then packed up, much to Skipper Frank's disgust.
I have a suspicion Dick wrecked the radio just to see if I can navigate on instruments only. But all the same, having no radio really means we are alone. No time signals to give us our position, and no news at all from the outside world. For navigation, we now rely on a chronometer set to Greenwich Mean Time. And as Petula's time passes, we gently drift on in a world of our own. But still we must drink, eat, and even wash. Water everywhere. But the drinking variety I keep in 700 jam jars. As we empty them, they'll be ready for our scientific specimens. We take turns at the galley, though we voted Dick, the Mrs. Beaton of the North Equatorial Current. His speciality is a stew of dehydrated potatoes and carrots, fried onions, and a tin of beans. In spite of our cramped quarters, we try to live like civilized people, whatever the weather may bring. Roland welcomes a fine Monday morning as gladly as my wife at home. Midwinter in England, but for us, it's Christmas in the sun. Christmas Day finds us 30 days out of Dakar, already carried 1,000 miles by the current. For a few hours, we can relax. Whatever the day, Dick must make his meteorological checks. All our biological investigations would be useless without accurate and detailed records of weather conditions. And that no one's had before on this route. Wind, rain or shine, Dick takes his air temperatures 4 times a day. Dick also takes regular sea temperatures from the raft. The raft doesn't disturb the water, and we can measure and observe under natural conditions. Funnily enough, fish accept the raft into the family or ignore it altogether. Other scientists tended to scare off the fish by using power-driven vessels, whose vibration can be felt for miles around. Short of swimming the 3,000 miles, the drifting Petula and her raft is the answer. We keep a watchful eye for sharks, which, as Dick says, are vaguely man-eating. And when one rubs against the dinghy, Dick makes the raft in record time. shaft glues itself to the surface of the water. This helps Dick a lot, and he can get readings of his thermometers at exact known depths. Temperatures are taken at 5 different levels at the same time. The 5-storey thermometer may look like food to the fish, but catching fish is Roland's business.
Well, we all do a bit of fishing, realize special jobs. But no one on Petula thinks of trying to catch the bottlenose dolphins, friendly, harmless creatures 10 or more feet long. We've a number of ways of landing anything else from the sea. Even a spoon attracts the coryphena, a fish about 3 feet long, which no one before's had a chance to study in such numbers. The cory, as it's called, will not only give us something fresh for supper tonight, but may reveal its own diet and habits, information wanted by commercial fishermen on both sides of the Atlantic. Once baited, the cory is brought in by ordinary hook and line, but the triggerfish makes a target for my hand harpoon. We've always thought that there are 2 species of ocean triggerfish, but our catch makes us think that they're the same species, just male and female. Fish of all sorts come right up to our drifting Petula, and Skipper Frank can catch them in a dip net like any schoolboy. Frank's real fishing job is looking after the net which catches plankton, tiny living things, often too small to see with the naked eye. The net has a mesh that's finer than a nylon stocking. It somehow managed to foul every conceivable part of the ship because Petula drifts so slowly. But now we've designed a float which seems to keep the net in place. It may be dinner time back home, but I had breakfast less than an hour ago. It's only 9 o'clock by the sun. Every day we try to carry out our work. Every day we observe and record. Frank remarked at breakfast that this is our 50th day at sea and we're more than halfway across. Four times a day at 6, 12, 18, and 2400 hours on the dot, the plankton net is hauled in. Microscopic plankton is the beginning of the chain of water food. Without it, all sea life must die. And we hope that our collection of plankton will give a clue to the movements of the larger inhabitants of the Atlantic. Every catch contains at least 500,000 animals. Every catch is carefully stored away in one of our 700 jam jars, ready for a laboratory back in England. But some of the lab work we can do on the spot when we can find an empty corner. No one knows why the triggerfish has nibbling teeth. Its diet may tell us if we can find enough of them. How the flying fish gets plankton food from the gills to the stomach is beyond our Petula laboratory. We mount the wings of each flying fish so that, back home, we'll be able to recognize which wing belongs to which stomach. And a parasite, a kind of louse, tries to leave the mouth of its flying fish host, like a rat from a sinking ship. Every hour we're freed from routine, we examine our treasure trove. But most of it must be stored away for future study, like Dick's films.
Yes, my cine camera can capture living records for us to look at when we get back. The base for filming is our country seat, the raft. On it, we've hoisted the 3rd substitute of the International Code of Signals, just to show we're in residence. Once Frank was out in the dinghy when the rope to Petula broke. If a current had then really caught the dinghy, we'd have seen the last of Frank. Trouble was, he had one of my valuable cameras with him, and he's the only one who can navigate. Roland talks of nothing else but the motorbike he's going to buy when we get back home. Frank's one thought is to board the plane at Barbados and fly like the wind to Rosemary, his waiting wife. All I want is an armchair on the Air Ministry roof. Most of our underwater photography is done by Frank, with Roland close at hand. I prefer the surface. Underwater, it's fairly common to meet the shark with its striped pilot fish escort and clinging suckerfish. But to catch a glimpse of a triggerfish with a sucker on its back is unique. Fortunately, Frank has the camera, or the experts will never believe him. Week after week, we've been followed by the same shark. On the 70th day, we lose our patience. It's a near thing. Too near for the shark. He just drops right out of our lives.
For 80 days, Dick, Roland, and I have drifted across the Atlantic. For 80 days, we have striven to collect the treasures of the sea and of the air. And then on the 83rd day, little Petula's task is over. Our Elizabethan ancestors raided the Spanish Main. Today we bring different riches to Barbados, but only after months in a London laboratory will we know the true value of Petula Quest.